Well,
So,
there comes a point when that's it.
yeah,
You say, I accept that.
yeah.
That's close enough. It's very difficult to translate the song that's written on the guitar to the finished record. In the case of Bridge Over Troubled Water, I always knew that I wanted it to be a piano.
Yeah.
I always knew I never wanted it to be played on the guitar, and I never bothered to work out the guitar part. And I knew that I wanted it to be for Artie.
When Paul Simon first began tinkering with the guitar riffs and loose lyrical sketches that would eventually become Mrs. Robinson, he had no idea the song would grow into one of the most enduring pieces of American music. What started as a tune with the placeholder title Mrs. Roosevelt transformed into a cultural lightning bolt once paired with Mike Nichols' film The Graduate, released in 1968 on Simon and Garfunkel's Bookends album and used in fragments throughout the movie. The track not only topped charts, but also rewrote the possibilities for what a popular song could do, intertwining literature, politics, baseball heroes, and suburban scandal in under 4 minutes. But for decades, listeners have asked the same question: who really is Mrs. Robinson? And now, with Paul Simon's reflections over the years, we can piece together the layered truth behind the famous muse. The origins of the song are almost comically casual. Nichols had already rejected 2 of Simon's submissions for The Graduate, Punky's Dilemma and Overs, when Simon and Garfunkel strummed out an early sketch of Mrs. Roosevelt. They filled in unfinished lines with nonsense syllables and placeholder names, humming and DDDing where verses should be. Nichols was electrified. "You have a song called Mrs. Robinson and you haven't even shown it to me?" he demanded when they substituted the film's character's name into the melody. In that instant, the fictional Mrs. Robinson of the movie fused with Simon's half-finished folk rock song, and an anthem of seduction, secrecy, and satire was born.
And so I never bothered to transpose it into a key that I could sing it.
Do you like to listen to your records? Does it mean anything to you to hear them?
Yes, each song means whatever I was like when I wrote it.
The brilliance of Mrs. Robinson lies in its contradictions. On the surface, the jangly acoustic guitars and feathered harmonies of Simon and Garfunkel give it an almost innocent sparkle, a sing-along sweetness. Yet the lyrics drip with irony and paranoia. Lines like, "We'd like to know a little bit about you for our files. We'd like to help you learn to help yourself," feel as though they come from some faceless bureaucracy, a commentary on the surveillance-heavy, conformist post-war America of the 1960s. Then comes the refrain, "And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know," a blessing that reads as both sarcastic jab and sincere prayer. Simon himself admitted that he enjoyed playing with ambiguity, leaving listeners unsure whether Mrs. Robinson is being mocked, pitied, or canonized. And then there is Joe DiMaggio. The baseball legend's cameo in the song has puzzled and enchanted generations. "Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio? Our nation turns its lonely eyes to you" is perhaps the most quoted couplet of Simon's career, a lament for lost heroes in an era of disillusionment. Simon was a Yankees fan who adored Mickey Mantle, yet chose DiMaggio for the simple reason that the syllables fit the meter better. Still, when he met DiMaggio in a Manhattan restaurant years later, the retired star confronted him. "I haven't gone anywhere. I just did a Mr. Coffee commercial." Simon reassured him that the line was never meant literally, but as a tribute to his quiet dignity in contrast to the scandal-ridden celebrity culture of the late 1960s. After DiMaggio's death in 1999, Simon elaborated in a New York Times piece that he saw DiMaggio as one of the last true American icons, a man of grace, fidelity, and silence at a time when public figures seemed incapable of restraint. It was no accident that Simon later performed the song in Yankee Stadium in DiMaggio's honor, omitting verses out of respect. But the real Mrs. Robinson? Unlike Dylan's Miss Lonely in Like a Rolling Stone, Simon never directly admitted to modeling her on a single person. Early drafts referred to Eleanor Roosevelt, and some argue that the song carried a political edge, pointing to the way American society treats its women, its rebels, and its icons. Others take the film association at face value. Mrs. Robinson is simply Anne Bancroft's character, the suburban temptress who ensnares Dustin Hoffman's Benjamin, and And yet, Simon's lyrics stretch far beyond the movie, alluding to spiritual crises, government files, and cultural heroes. She is less a single woman than a symbol, a stand-in for middle-class repression, generational tension, and even America itself. That hasn't stopped people from projecting new meanings onto her. In 2010, when Northern Ireland politician Iris Robinson was exposed for having an affair with a man 40 years her junior, the press immediately dubbed her a real-life Mrs. Robinson. The song was dusted off as a soundtrack for Scandal, re-entering the cultural bloodstream decades after its debut. Quentin Tarantino dropped it into Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 2019, using it ironically as Brad Pitt's aging stuntman gazes at a much younger woman, and Frank Sinatra, unable to stomach the Jesus reference, recorded a sanitized version for his 1969 album My Way, adding his own verse and tweaking Simon's lyrics to suit radio censors. The truth is, Simon himself seemed amused by all the speculation. He admitted that the Cuckoo Cachoo was nothing more than a playful Beatles homage. He shrugged when asked if writing for a Hollywood film was selling out, and he once joked that the line choices came down to syllables more than anything else. What makes the Mrs. Robinson endure, however, is that slippery quality, its ability to sound like a love song, a satire, a cultural eulogy, and a hymn all at once. It's an anthem of suburban secrecy, but also of national longing, a celebration of both rebellion and nostalgia.
So everywhere they went is, you, Mrs.
Yeah. And pointing
Can
out
be
that
a
he doesn't
drag.
look like Dustin Hoffman,
Yeah,
probably.
I suppose.
Yeah.
The Graduate, Mike Nichols called
Yeah.
and asked. He said he had a book and he was going to make a film, and it's called The Graduate, and he sent us the book. And he was in the midst of the film then. He was almost finished, and he convinced us to do the music. And the music was supposed to be mostly original music.
When the song won 2 Grammys in 1969, including Record of the Year, it became the first rock song to do so, cementing Simon and Garfunkel as the voice of a restless generation. Yet even as awards piled up, Simon resisted pinning down the meaning. Perhaps that's the final revelation. Mrs. Robinson isn't one person at all. She's Eleanor Roosevelt, Anne Bancroft, Iris Robinson, and every restless suburban spirit. She's the scandal next door, the longing for heroes, the paranoia of the Cold War, and the ironic comfort of being watched. Paul Simon revealed her long ago, not in a tell-all confession, but in the act of refusing to define her. And so, whenever the guitar riff begins and Simon croons that opening and "Here's to you," listeners are dropped right into the middle of a story that feels half personal, half political, and wholly iconic. Mrs. Robinson will always be who we need her to be, a mirror, a mystery, and a muse, forever Cuckoo Cachoo in the soundtrack of American memory.